Hello, welcome back to my channel and another episode of Homebrew Mythic Climb. It's day 10, I'm Ricky. Let's dive right in. As usual, I am piloting my friend's Homebrew deck that he took all the way to Mythic last season, and I am trying to get there myself with the exact same deck list. We are up against Snakerman, and so far we have climbed from Gold 4 all the way to Plat 3. Let's see how we do today. So our first hand is not too bad. We have two flyers that we are looking for. We have a Lurus to get them back if they die. However, we do draw two Lurus, which is not what we want. We are going first. We have a Temple of Silence for the Scry, so I think this is pretty reasonable to keep for what our deck is trying to do. Against a Yorion deck, I think we are already not very well favored, but we will have to see how this goes. It looks like our opponent took a mulligan going second. That matters slightly less. We mulligan, or we scry into another Temple of Silence. I don't think we want to see another Temple of Silence, so we will just bottom that and pass the turn. So we definitely want our Hushbringer to survive, because it does shut down the Yorion deck mechanics quite a bit. So the best we can hope for is to bait out a Glass Casket, although that is not, so far as we can see, not the Glass Casket colors. So once again, we are against a Yorion deck where I have no idea what to expect, until maybe they start playing some cards. Black, green, blue Yorion deck. Black Source, Agonizing Remorse will get rid of our Hushbringer, I believe. However, we can just Lurus and then hopefully get our Hushbringer back. Our opponent does get rid of Hushbringer, so that does tell us something about our opponent's deck. We don't necessarily need to get our Lurus out just yet. We can just press the slight advantage we have right now with the Luminarch Aspirant that we just drew. 1/1 counter gets us some lifelink, pulls us ahead, and evens out the threats that our opponent needs to deal with. Our opponent casts Cultivate to get 1,000,000 lands. He has colors of pretty much all types. Oh, I forgot. Our Hushbringer gets exiled, so unfortunately we do not get to bring it back. They don't see the plains, so let's hold the plains in our hand. We can Fabled Passage into a let's Black Source because we have a plains in our hand. We will cast one of our Luruses because our opponent sees both of them anyway, so we might as well. We will put the 1/1 counter on Lurus because 2 toughness is generally pretty easy to kill, and at this point we would rather have our Lurus survive. Our opponent casts Golden Egg for more control potential via drawing cards. Another Scry. Our opponent has plenty of mana, I think, of the colors that they're playing. Still a little bit concerned, still a little bit worried for a board wipe, so we will hold the Lurus and our Null Priest in hand. So now I will spread the counter onto Ghastly Gloomhunter, spread out our threats, and then attack with our creatures. Our opponent takes all of the damage. I'm still afraid of a board wipe, so I will just leave Null Priest in our hand and see what our opponent does. They will probably just sacrifice the Golden Egg for some life, or Cling to Dust for some life. Wait, Cling to Dust doesn't give him life? If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life. Alright, so he elected to get rid of my card to draw a card instead. Shadow's Verdict. Yep, there's the board wipe. 3 or less. So our best bet here is to cast the Lurus and call it a day. We can hold Null Priest of Oblivion just in case. We will play our land as a red source because we have plenty of the other colors, and it looks like we might end up needing to cast our SnapDax as just a hard cast as opposed to mutate. Our opponent has Heartless Act. Fae of Wishes comes in to wish for probably his endgame. I'm guessing it's an Ujin. Garruk is pretty good as well. Fortunately, we do have the No Priest, which we can kick and bring back the Lurrus. We can get the Temple of Silence in for a scry. It's a land. We do not want to land, and that's the best we can do. So if our opponent has a board wipe here, we lose. If our opponent casts Garruk and targets our Lurrus, we are still pretty close to losing. And our opponent still can cast Fae of Wishes as a blocker. So our opponent gets 2 Wolves into play and a Fae of Wishes. We see a Heartless Act. So that doesn't do much for us. Unfortunately, I think our opponent has us completely locked down after playing that board wipe. I don't see very many avenues of going through considering they have a Fae of Wishes. The best we can do is kill the Fae of Wishes and attack with both creatures, at which point we will just die. However, what I can do is attack with the No Priest. Fae of Wishes will probably block. We can kill the Fae of Wishes, but that doesn't help us. Oh, it will help us kill one of the wolves, because he needs to block with at least 2 creatures. So let's see what happens if we just attack with the No Priest. So yeah, that's what our opponent does. We'll aim to kill the dog. We don't necessarily need to kill the Fae of Wishes here. So I think we'll just trade it for the wolf. We'll let that resolve. He gets a counter, and we do get to play our No Priest right back. Our kicker is going to do nothing because we already have no creatures left in our graveyard because his board wipe gets rid of everything into exile. So this is another new control deck that we have not seen. It's pretty interesting. I like the color choice. Not really sure where Yorion fits into all of that. But Chief's Thirst is pretty solid draw for my opponent. Our opponent just needs to pump out a million wolves at this point and call it a day.
You're not scared of dogs, are you?
It's our turn. Let's see what we draw. We draw SnapDax. SnapDax is pretty good here. We do have enough creatures, so let's see if we can get the win. We'll cast SnapDax on the No Priest. If this gets countered, we're screwed. If he has a kill spell right here, we're kind of screwed. Target creature or planeswalker, we will elect to kill. I think we have to go for the win here. Dealing 4 damage to Garruk isn't going to help us, so we'll have to go for the wolf. Once we blow up the wolf, he won't be able to block because we have Menace. However, he still does have the golden egg to sacrifice for life, so I believe that's what he'll probably be betting betting on. He does have Crawling Barrens, but if he activates the Crawling Barrens, we can just kill it with a Heartless Act. So I believe our best bet here is to just attack with the SnapDax. Perhaps it was a mistake to not get rid of the Garruk and go for the kill here, because I don't think we can actually finish after evaluating the fact that he has the Crawling Barrens and the Golden Egg here. We can't do enough damage to kill him, so Garruk will become a very, very big threat next turn. So our opponent comes up with the Crawling Barrens. We have double strike, so we're not afraid. Our opponent does have enough tokens to get an emblem now, which is pretty scary. Destroy target creature. Oh, I completely forgot about his second ability. Oh boy, I completely misplayed that one. I definitely need to get rid of Garruk. Oh man, that is just sad. I completely forgot about Garruk's second ability there. Oh boy. I 100% needed to get rid of the Garruk. At this point, I think I'm going to be too far behind to recover from the Garruk because he'll just keep pumping up more and more wolves. So I believe that is the game. This is beyond my recovery now. So I will concede. Wow, that was very, very painful. We did not mulligan here. We did not get mana screwed. We lost this one. It was not a free game. It was plat 3. We are still at 0 pips. On to game 2. Wow, that was a hard lesson learned. Completely forgot about Garruk's second ability because all our opponent had been using was its first ability. If we had pummeled the Garruk with our SnapDax, it would have survived, but it would not have been able. He would have still been able to kill our. He would have still been able to kill our SnapDax, actually, now that I think about it, because if we had pinged the Garruk instead, it would have been down to 2 loyalty, because it was as 6, but when we attack with our SnapDax, he would block with both his wolves, or with a wolf and a land, so he would gain at least that one extra at least one extra loyalty, up to 2 extra loyalty if somehow both of his dogs die. This hand is very playable. Selfless Savior with Null Priest and the Lures, so we'll keep this. Unfortunately, we don't have the Black Source, so I think I will still have to start with the Selfless Savior. It is much better of a kill spell magnet than the Null Priest because we can't recur the Null Priest until we get the Lures. So let me finish my thought from the other game. He had 2 dogs left in play that could block. If I attacked with the SnapDax, he probably wanted to survive and block with both dogs. Since both dogs will die, Garruk will, or at least one dog will die. He will get at least 1 counter on the Garruk, and Garruk will be left at 3 counters, which is still enough to kill the SnapDax. So all in all, it wasn't too big of a mistake. We see a swamp. We do want the 5 lands for Baneslayer Angel, so I think I will keep it. opponent, unless our opponent has it. Oh, he does not play the robber, so we don't have to worry about that. Our opponent has another Hellhound. A full slate of Hellhounds. Wow. That is not good news for us. However, what we can do is drop a Swamp and play the Lurrus, and then pass the turn. We're in for a world of pain here. Our opponent got really lucky and drew all of his Akum Hellhounds, but if we can survive this early onslaught, eventually they will just become 0/0 creatures. Here it's really risky, because if he has a kill spell and I'm blocking here, I would sacrifice the Selfless Savior to save the Lurrus, but he'll cast Stone Crusher Giant to block it and it will die. So the best bet here is just to take the damage. We have our 5th land. Unfortunately, we have more than we need. Same story. If he has a Bone Crusher Giant, he will have to cast it. However, we are still in an advantaged position because we can, I believe, see, if I attack into this and he blocks, I don't need to use Selfless Savior. So let's see what happens if I attack with Lurrus. Alternatively, actually, I think I'll just let the Lurrus sit back and hope our opponent does not have another land. And we'll see what happens here. Bone Crusher Giant comes out. We will protect it with the Selfless Savior. Our opponent casts Annex, so he's setting up for a devastating, what's the Embercleave? However, we do have Baneslayer Angel, so we can trade the Baneslayer Angel with that if necessary. We unfortunately did not have enough mana to recur our Selfless Savior, but a 5/5 creature should be pretty difficult for red deck wins to deal with. Our opponent is attacking with Annex. I'm not entirely sure why. I will just block here, and I have First Strike. Our opponent does get 2 1/1 tokens, which will make his Castle Embereth particularly powerful next turn. Unfortunately for our opponent, we do have another Baneslayer Angel coming in. We'll search for a black source just for kicks. We'll cast our Selfless Savior from the graveyard, and we can cast our second Baneslayer Angel. At this point, I feel comfortable enough to attack with my Baneslayer, so I will do that. And I will end my turn. So our opponent is stuck on 3 lands. Like I said, we survived the early onslaught, so we're not as concerned about the Akum Hellhounds anymore. Once he does get to 4 lands, I suspect he can attack with everything and activate Castle Embereth, so that will be pretty scary. Castle Lochthwain is available to us now. We will activate it for some card draw. We see Bloodchief's Thirst, which is excellent for us because we do not want Robber of the Rich to block us here, so we can just get rid of that. Lucky draw, lucky draw. And then here we will attack with both Baneslayer Angels, I think, because 30 life is a lot of life even for Embercleave. We now have 30 life. So that's still a lot for Embercleave to get through. Torbrand is pretty scary. So here we don't need anything to survive, so we can just block as necessary. So everything gets +2 damage, so right off the bat it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 14, 15, 16, 20, 21, 26. So technically we don't even need to block anything. However, we will block 2 of the creatures. We can block the Bone Crusher Giant as well as one of the Akum Hellhounds. We'll pass to the first strike damage, which is fine. We will sacrifice the Savior to save the Lurrus. That damage does get blocked, doesn't get the Torbrand damage. Okay, I'm not sure why I have so many of those. And we recur our Selfless Savior, attack with our Baneslayer Angels once again, and claim the victory. Excellent, excellent. Didn't need to mulligan, didn't really get opponent. We won this one. It was almost a free game. Our opponent was mana stuck. However, that is the nature of the red deck wins. You generally run only 20 to 21 lands, or well, 22 if you're really, really conservative. So yeah, getting mana screwed like our opponent did for red deck wins is quite common. Seems like I might need to mute this. Alright, so it is now our turn. To decide whether or not we want to keep something like this where we have 2 of our high-end endgame cards with very little support in the beginning. I haven't drawn a hand that is quite like this, so on that basis I will play it. I think I definitely should be mulliganing this, because our opponent, like our friend said, seeing SnapDax in your opening hand is never a good sign. Spikefield Hazard removes our creature from play, unfortunately. We do see a second land, so we are well on our way to staying alive. Luminarch Aspirant becomes a 2/2. It's still very susceptible to Bone Crusher Giant, which looks like our opponent has, because that is how our life is. We do see Maul of the Skyclaves, which is excellent. We can drop Luminarch Aspirant pretty safely here and see what our opponent will react. If he has a Bone Crusher Giant, he will have to kill it right now, or else it will get very big. Bone Crusher Giant, and that is why we choose to play the Luminarch Aspirant first, because if we chose to play the land first and attach to Maul of the Skyclaves, it would have died and we would have wasted the free attach. So we will drop this as a red source because we may need to hard cast our SnapDax. Next turn, if we draw a land and our Luminarch does not survive, if our opponent has a second Bone Crusher Giant in his hand, he is very, very lucky indeed. Of course, our opponent does exactly that, so now we are left with 4 mana. We will hard cast our SnapDax and hope for the best. Fortunately, our SnapDax does out-combat both of his Bone Crusher Giants, but now it's probably going to die to a Heartless Act, except he's not playing black. He is playing the red, blue, green version of this deck, this Adventures deck, so I'm expecting a Brazen Borrower now. Instead, he casts Cultivate, which means we do get 1 free attack. Lovestruck Beast comes out as a blocker. We have an excellent Selfless Savior just in time here. Hopefully he does not have Brazen Borrower, because we are casting Maul of the Skyclaves onto our SnapDax and attacking for 10. And hopefully we'll get to draw a land next turn to cast Baneslayer Angel or another playable card that can help us get through any blockers. We are hoping to not see a Brazen Borrower here. If we see Brazen Borrower here, we have pretty much lost. Fave the Wishes is also not good for us. Edgewall Innkeeper comes in. Lots of potential card draw available to draw into the Brazen Borrower. So for example, all of these cost 3 mana. And he'll still have 2 left over to cast Brazen Borrower if he draws into it. Instead, he adventures the Beanstalk Giant. He does not get to draw a card for Edgewall Innkeeper, however he still has 3 mana. So that is either a Brazen Borrower or our opponent is about to lose. Lovestruck Beast enters play, but he has no lands left to cast anything, which means he should be ready to concede. Our opponent attacks for 1. We will have to take that. Our turn, we have a second SnapDax just in case. So we will attack with our SnapDax for 10 damage and call it a day. Excellent, excellent. I love it when our deck gets to do what it gets to do. We didn't mulligan, didn't have any mana events, we won. Not a free game. Plat 3 with 2 pips. On to game 4. Those of you who are joining just from this video, the numbers I am muttering are the specific stats that I'm tracking myself that Untapped GG does not. If you're interested in seeing what my Untapped GG progress has been, it's linked in the description below. If you're interested in seeing the Google Sheet that I'm tracking these custom stats, it's also in the description below. I track things like whether or not we took mulligans, whether or not we got mana screwed or mana flooded, whether or not we won or lost specifically because of those, and whether or not we got free games. So our opponent is going first, and we draw a horrific hand with no early plays, so we will mulligan this. Here is much better. We have some early creatures and a mana base to support it, so we will have to stick with this hand, even though it is not ideal. We do have a turn 1 play in the Selfless Savior, so we don't want to get rid of that, so we will return a Swamp instead. Bloodsheep's Thirst is quite excellent. So I decided to keep the Temple of Silence because the Scry almost, it's like drawing half of a card. Since we had to mulligan and return one of the cards, having the Temple of Silence while we don't have any turn 3 plays necessary was a way for me to make up for that mulligan. So our opponent has Lurrus and this Triome. So here we are, we can cast, we do want our lifelink out as much as possible. We do want our Hushbringer to survive. So, however, we do have Selfless Savior, so I believe the Hushbringer is quite safe. We'll cast the Hushbringer right now in case he does rely on creatures such as the Thief's Guild Enforcer to win. If our Hushbringer was already in play, we would not have lost 2 lands. Losing those 2 lands doesn't make too much difference to us based on what we have in our hand, so might have helped us a little bit. Our opponent goes for the Lurrus return for which I am fine with. It is our turn. We don't see the land we would have preferred, so we will scry. We see another land. Wow. Wow. So my deck was set up for Mana Screwed. We do not need that land because we have Fabled Passage already, so we will do that instead. We will get out as many creatures as possible. Our other alternative is to cast Bloodchief's Thirst to kill the Enforcer and get Speaker of the Heavens out. However, we see Lurrus already in his hand, so there's kind of no point in going for that. We'd rather save the Bloodchief's Thirst to kill his Lurrus next turn. So we'll get the Gloomhunter out and attack with the Hushbringer. Our opponent still has nothing in his graveyard, so we're not too concerned about him dropping the Lurrus. He does have the Soaring Thought Thief, which is rather annoying because our Air Force kind of relies on being in the air and staying alive. So our opponent wants to mill 2 cards. He milled our Lurrus, unfortunately, but also another land, and I believe I am fine with blocking this. I'll block with the Gloomhunter because I'm fine with it dying if it's a trade. Our opponent does have the Lurrus, so I believe that's what he's going after. Unfortunately for us, we will get he will get to recast the Thief's Guild Enforcer before anything happens. So perhaps that was not the best trade. Man, sometimes I really just outplay myself. I should have just let that 1 damage go. I really didn't need to block that. Outplaying myself here again. I'll get the Speaker of Heavens out. Again, no point in Bloodchief's Thirst killing the Thought Thief when he has Lurrus in play, so we will just pass here. Our opponent casts a second Soaring Thought Thief. Pretty annoying. Ooh, our opponent does not have enough mana to actually recur the Thieves Guild Enforcer. So our opponent gets to mill a whole bunch of our cards. It does become a 3/3 threat. We will take the 3 damage. We are hoping to see SnapDax or Baneslayer Angel or Skyclave Maul at this point. Our opponent casts Into the Story to draw cards, so our chances of winning is dwindling because Into the Story will draw the Mere Rogue's kill cards like Eliminate, Heartless Act, or Drown in the Loch, all of which are now fully activated. So even if I play a SnapDax or a Baneslayer Angel, it will just instantly get killed by the cards he just drew. The Mere Rogues is a very annoying, very efficient deck. Bloodchief's Thirst in an attempt to kill the Hushbringer. I believe I will have to save the Hushbringer. The Hushbringer does prevent a lot of our opponent's deck. So we see a SnapDax, which is excellent. However, since they already cast 1 Bloodchiefs in an attempt to kill the Hushbringer, our SnapDax will almost certainly die next turn anyway. However, that being the case where we can do nothing else different, we will kill the Soaring Thought Thief that is in our way. We're now at 27 life. We can attack for a whole bunch of damage and activate our Speaker of the Heavens for an Angel. So top decking the SnapDax there, as I was hoping for a SnapDax, was very, very lucky indeed. Our opponent is probably just trying to figure out what to do with his mana. He 100% needs to kill the SnapDax, which is what we see there. But he also needs to desperately kill the Speaker of the Heavens, as well as get rid of my Angel. But he also needs to get Lurrus back into play so he can start recurring some of his other creatures to block said Angels. So that is why that decision took so long. I believe my opponent made the correct plays. We do see a Selfless Savior here, which is good news for us. We will cast Bloodchief's Thirst to kill our opponent's Lurrus to prevent him from recurring any creatures. And we will attack with our 4/4 Angel. And since we still are above the Speaker of the Heavens threshold, we can activate his ability and get us another 4/4 Angel. So our opponent drew 2 kill spells with Into the Story. He's likely to have 1 more, I believe, with 17 cards, 3 of them being lands. He has more than that. Yeah, I think it's still likely that he has 1 more kill spell in his hand right now. Agadeem's Awakening, that's the second one. He gets a whole bunch of creatures back into play. We are still pretty far away from being milled to death, so we are looking good from that perspective. I don't believe our opponent can attack here reasonably, because I can just block it with my Angel and he'll only get in 3 damage, and it doesn't push me into the threshold of dying quite yet. We draw a land, which is not helpful for us. However, we will attack with both of our Angels. He will have to block at least one of them. He double blocks 1 Angel, which is fine with us. We will get to kill 1. We can sacrifice our dog to protect the Angel, which I believe we'll have to do so that the Angel can survive and attack next turn. So we will sacrifice the dog to protect the Angel. This way we will have another Angel that is ready to attack next turn. Because if he recurs the Soaring Thought Thief, he'll only have 2 flying blockers against our 3 Angels. Getting pretty close. If our opponent has any kill spell now, we will start going down on the losing end. Our opponent draws pretty much perfectly for the 3rd Soaring Thought Thief. So in a third of his deck, he has gotten 2 copies of Agadeem's Awakening and 3 copies of Soaring Thought Thief. Just sometimes I don't understand what I did to deserve this BS. So now we are getting milled to death quite badly. 6 damage puts us at 28, which still allows us to pump out another Angel, so we don't need to block this quite yet. We're hoping to see a SnapDax or a Baneslayer Angel in our draw now. We see a Baneslayer Angel, that could help. So we'll cast that, cast the Baneslayer Angel. We will secure another angel. And here I believe I have to attack with all of my angels here. I will lose 3 of them. But our opponent is going to turbo mill us pretty readily if we don't attack. If we don't attack, we have no way of winning except for spitting out more angels. If we attack with all 3, we will get rid of 3 of his flying creatures, which is not enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe our best bet is just to not attack. Yeah, because if we attack with 3, he will bring back one of them with Lurrus. And then at that point, we're still stalemating 2 flyers against 2 flyers. Because whatever angel we create next turn won't be able to attack. So I think our best bet is to do nothing and hope our opponent draws nothing. If our opponent draws a kill spell or another flyer, we are in the gutter. Our opponent does Cling to Dust. He will draw a card. Our opponent cycles the land that he drew with Cling to Dust. He still has 2 lands, so he still has time to find a kill spell. A 4th flyer? Okay, so that delays our victory 1 more turn because now he has 5 blockers. So really we need to draw our other SnapDax or a kill spell to win. No Priest of Oblivion can return a can return to us a Hushbringer, I believe, is what we need. Or it can return a Lurrus. Either way, I don't think I can win this turn, so I will have to cast the Null Priest kicker. I will have to get a Lurrus as an extra threat. We don't have enough mana, but we do have enough life to summon another angel. So now, once again, our Air Force goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is more than he has. But unfortunately, we still cannot attack this turn, I believe. However, actually, if we attack with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of his flyers will be wiped out. He can only return 1. At which point we still can't attack. So perhaps maybe getting Hushbringer would have been more aggressive, because right now I still can't win. He's going to draw, yeah, all 5 are going to die. He's going to recur 1 flyer. Oh, but I will have 2 flyers left unless he double blocks the Baneslayer Angel. Actually, yeah, because the Baneslayer Angel should survive, I think I'm actually okay with attacking both creatures here. Or with all of my flyers here. It also does keep our opponent from decking us out as quickly. Our opponent goes for Into the Story, hopefully to find an answer, but he only has 2 lands left to play cards. So that is looking pretty good for us, particularly because we do have way wider of a board than our opponent does. Our opponent casts the Wind Robber, mills 2 of our cards, which is not enough. Our opponent is completely out of mana options now. Oh, so I was correct. He can only recur 1 of his flyers, so therefore, since we have first strike and our first striker survives, we still have 2 flyers to block. But our opponent chooses to do that instead, which means I believe we still win because the Null Priest has Menace. Okay, so our opponent is trying to get us below 20-something, but I think this will actually net us the win. That doesn't gain life. Ooh, the Lurrus gains life, though. So, because the Lurrus gains life, I might have to block with the Oblivion here to stay above that threshold. And we are once again precariously dropping towards 0 cards in our deck. We draw a land, which is not what we wanted to see. However, we can kick Null Priest and actually get a second creature back. We can kick the Null Priests. And we can bring back our Hushbringer, I believe, was probably safer than SnapDax. It is another flyer, so I think that does get us closer to a win condition. We will have to activate for another Angel here. And we will once again attack with our Baneslayer Angel. And he will have to block and sacrifice to draw a card. So our opponent is definitely not looking to kill us now. He's looking to deck us out with 15 cards left in the deck. He has plenty of options here, but he can only recur 1 of his Thieves. So he can still potentially draw 2 flyers here. But drawing 2 flyers at this point, because they don't have lifelink, we will still win. Hushbringer does not stomp Ruin Crab and the Fabled Passage interaction, because it is not a creature entering the battlefield. However, it will stomp effects such as Thief's Guild Enforcer if he tries to bring that back, which is why I needed the Hushbringer back. Based on what I see in his deck, I don't think he has enough to mill 9 cards in 1 turn. With 5 cards in his hand, I don't think his deck has that capability. I don't think any of the rogue variants have that capability, unless you're playing Maddening Cacophony. So he cast the Soaring Thought Thief. That's his choice of rogue. Cling to Dust can gain him some life. I'm not sure if he remembers. Our opponent is running out of time to make decisions. Call of the Depth Caller nets him lots more flyers. So now he probably can mill the rest of my cards. All he needs to do is cast another Fabled Passage. Bloodchief's Thirst kills my Speaker of the Silence, so yeah, I think he has it. We draw another Null Priest. The Null Priest needs to be blocked by 2 creatures. He'll gain 3 life, but I can deal 3 damage on the ground. So maybe what I need to do here is kick the Null Priest. Ooh, I forgot I stomped my own creature here. 8 cards left in my deck. I believe I will have to attack with these 2 at the very least. That has Death Touch, which is pretty scary. Hushbringer can't do anything. That requires 2 blockers. I think I'm out of time. I think I just need to attack with everything and hope for the best here. Yeah, I think he's figured it out. He can let my Hushbringer go, but he needs to kill my Lurrus and my Null Priest. Yeah, so blocking those 2 will be to his advantage, and he can trade the Lurrus. And he'll gain enough life to survive for this turn. His Lurrus does die. So it's a matter of whether or not he can get rid of 8 cards in 1 turn. So that's pretty easy, actually. He doesn't have Lurrus to recur, so he needs to attack with the Rogue. The Rogue will get 2 cards, so if he has a Fabled Passage, he has... Oh, he does not have a Fabled Passage. So that's 5, that's 2 cards from Soaring Thought Thief. If he plays a Thief's Guild Enforcer, it'll get stomped by the Hushbringer. But our opponent has plenty of cards still. And we don't have much of an attack force, so I think, unless we draw a kill spell, I think we have lost. Let's see if we even have any kill spells left. We have Heartless Act gone. Domination. Well, our opponent pulls out the top deck of the year and wins. Lurrus is not going to do it, I believe. Our opponent can still have kill spells. So my big mistake was actually ended up being kicking the Null Priest last turn. If I didn't kick the Null Priest last turn, I would have been able to play my second Null Priest. So that's where I went wrong here. Kick, hush, block myself. Can't play second Null Priest. Can I pay 3 mana to keep this? I think I'll have to. The only thing we can get back is Speaker of the Heavens or Selfless Savior, neither of which will help us. So yeah, that's the end of that. Our opponent casts more flyers and locks us out of the win. We have 2 cards left. If that's a land, we lose. We don't have any way to deal with a flying angel of that size. And we don't have anything that can deal that much damage in 1 turn. Our remaining card is a land. None of our creatures can... We don't have enough creatures that can attack that can deal more than 5 damage that he'll gain with the Baneslayer, so we lose. So yeah, it turns out that the big mistake was spending the mana to kick the Null Priest, when really I should have just cast the Null Priest from the graveyard and hard casted the Null Priest that I drew. That way I would have 2 menace creatures for the turn where he gained control of my Baneslayer Angel. He had the flyer. That's all I needed to do was get that... get those Null Priest attacks in, and all would have been fine and dandy. And there we have it, our loss. Did not mulligan, no mana, we lost this one. It was not a free game. Plat 3, back down to 1 pip. Oh, that was kind of a heartbreaking loss, but that was, I think, the first time we actually had a game where we had the Null Priests plus Hushbringer kicked from the graveyard interaction during our climb so far. So that is definitely a very, very hard lesson to learned. Kicking no priest from the graveyard while you have Hushbringer in play will only mess yourself up. Lesson learned. Turn 1 Speaker of the Heavens into some other flyers is quite decent. Against our opponent Kashnikya. Of course, our opponent has Blood Chief's Thirst, highly efficient card. So our second card, we will play Ghastly Gloom Hunter, mostly because we don't have another black source for next turn, so we want to be spending our black mana for this turn. Our opponent has a second Blood Chief's Thirst and a Foulmire Knight. Foulmire Knight is not too concerning, but very annoying when your opponent starts with double Null Chief's or a double Blood Chief's Thirst. Here, I believe we will cast Hushbringer and pass the turn. Not too concerned about a 1/1 Foulmire Knight just yet. With enough lands, we can hope to kick the Null Priest and bring back our bat at the same time. Demonic's Embrace does make it quite large. That is fine with me. We will take the 4 damage and kill it with Blood Chief's Thirst next. Our 3 Blood Chief's Thirst? Are you serious? One of these days, this game will let me play the game. You know what I mean? One of these days, this game will actually let me play the game. We do see Maul of the Skyclaves, which is excellent. That means... Unfortunately, we did have to play the Temple of Silence to get that, so we won't be able to cast Blood Chiefs and Null Priest. However, we will be at 5 mana next turn, so perhaps casting Blood Chief's Thirst here is still to our advantage, so we don't die from straight damage. Because eventually we will have some life gain back. So if he has a kill spell, that's going to die. If that dies, there's sort of no point in saving my mana anyway, so I think I might as well cast Maul of the Skyclaves and hope for the best. Alternatively, we could have just held out one more turn and hoped and played it with Kicker instead, but here we are. Our opponent casts Grave Merchant for nothing. We have Luminarch Aspirant, and we can attach the Maul of Skyclaves to it. Our opponent pays for the Demonic Embrace to come back, which is fine with us. We can drop the land, draw a card with Castle Lochthwain, cast our Hushbringer, put the 1/1 counter on our Luminarch so that we can block and then pass the turn. Hopefully our opponent does not draw a kill spell. If he draws a kill spell, we have lost. Once again, we find another land, so we will drop a land. We will draw a card. It's yet another land, unfortunately. So what we will do here is so we really just want the Luminarch Aspirant to act as a blocker for now. So we want to pump up our Hushbringer to eventually be able to start attacking. So that's what we'll do here. Moving it over right now would make it a 4/5, which is not enough to defend against the Grey Merchant, so we'll have to end the turn here. Our opponent has another Gary, but that's fine because our Hushbringer stomps that. We have a Selfless Savior, which is most excellent. Believe I can draw a card here and still be okay. Unfortunately, it's yet another land. I can move the Maul over and start gaining life. But I won't have a flyer to block, so never mind. Our opponent is hoping to draw a kill spell, but good thing we have the Selfless Savior to survive a little bit longer. We are flooding out pretty badly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 41, 10. I think that's a mana event. 41, 10. Our opponent does nothing, which is fine with us. We see a repeat of last turn. We see another Selfless Savior. Suppose we'll try and draw another card. Second Maul of the Skyclaves makes it excellent. That way we now have another flyer that can attack. We'll put the 1/1 counter on the Hushbringer so we can gain more life, and we will begin the attack. Our opponent decides against it, and we are now at a much healthier 11 life. Our opponent decides to concede. Whew. That is our third win for today. Plat 3 at 2 pips. On to the fourth. Hopefully the fourth win. We only have one creature and one Maul of the Skyclaves against Yuri on deck, so we most definitely need to mulligan. We have two creatures into a SnapDax, so I suppose we'll have to keep this. Returning the SnapDax will bottom it. We'll pretty much never see it again unless we draw a Fabled Passage. So my question is, can we survive long enough without a Bloodchief's Thirst? However, having Bloodchief's Thirst doesn't help us win. Having SnapDax also doesn't help us win because we can't SnapDax onto the Luminarch Aspirant. We can only do it to our dog, which is very, very inefficient. So I think my best bet is to return the SnapDax. Turn 1, I think we would rather play the Selfless Savior. That might have been a mistake, too conservative. For example, if we draw the Null Priest there, it's pretty excellent for us to have the SnapDax to curve into. However, I think we still made the right choice. The Bloodchief source was if he started with something completely ridiculous that we can't deal with, and also because since we're playing against some sort of Yorion variant, a board wipe would have ensured that, you know, yes, even we have an early Null Priest, our SnapDax is never going to make it out or stay out long enough for it to survive. We see another Null Priest. We'll probably need it for the pending board wipes, so right now it's just a matter of trying to do as much damage as possible. We will pump our Null Priest here and attack for 4 damage. We are not too concerned about the wall that's coming out. Our opponent doesn't have board wipes until next turn, however there is a Skyclave Apparition for our Luminarch. So here, I think our best bet is to slow play it. I don't have enough mana to kill the Skyclave Apparition, actually. However, I can kill the wall, or I can just get my Maul the Skyclaves up in the air with a Null Priest and continue the attack. I think that is my best plan here. I think I can survive a board wipe such as Scatter the Sky because I have the Doge, but if he has a Glass Casket, I'm basically well on my way to losing. Checking my emails here. I'm expecting something today. Our opponent searches for Yorion. Not sure what we can do against a Yorion that hits next turn. Our opponent attacks for 2, nothing we can do here. So expecting the Yorion to come in next turn, with what we see here, our best bet might be to kill the Skyclave Apparition so that when the Yorion comes in, it has no Skyclave Apparition target. So I think that is the plan. We'll have to destroy his Skyclave Apparition. And here we will attack with our Null Priest once again. Our opponent does not hit his 5th land for Yorion, or he has his 5th land, but he needs something to draw instead, because Yorion, he realizes, isn't going to save him. He draws a golden egg after the scry. That probably means he has a Glass Casket. If he has a Glass Casket, that delays my victory a couple more turns. Actually, a lot longer, because then the Yorion will come in and then wreck my attack. I'd have to cast Null Priest first and then equip them all. So that's another turn before I can actually get in any more damage. So our opponent doesn't seem to have that many shenanigans so far. Let's see how he responds to Heartless Act on his token. He can still gain 3 life. Gaining 3 life will put him at 10, so I'm only dealing 8 damage, which is not enough. So I think I will have to attack with just my Null Priest here. I'm still a little bit afraid of a board wipe, but the board wipes are expensive, and I can protect with Selfless Savior, so I think I am pretty safe with playing the Null Priest here. And I will end my turn. Unless, of course, he's running that exile a whole bunch of creatures card, then that would be pretty bad. He casts Omen of the Forge, probably targeting my Selfless Savior. Or actually my Null Priest. I suppose if I protect it here... Nah, I can't. I have to let this die. I need to protect the equipped one so I don't need to spend mana fixing it up. Scry 1. Yorion comes in. Okay. I think that means I still win because my opponent will not gain enough life. So the Omen of the Forge comes in again. We'll deal 2 damage to the token. At which point I will let that resolve because I don't need it to win. Our opponent gets to draw a card, but it's not a land. And then I will kill my opponent's Yorion over here. It is now our turn. We just need to attack for the win. Whew! So I think that is our 4th win of the day. Thank you so much for watching. We had a doozy of a fight in the middle. Those are the games we play for, the ones where it's a huge slog. Both players seem to have a chance. Both players are clinging on to dear life. However, it was a roping decision that I had to make. I made the mistake of not realizing that, or not remembering that a kicked Null Priest will get hushed by my own Hushbringer. And yeah, we suffered the consequences and missed the win on that one. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. Ring it if you feel it. If you're on Twitch, please drop a follow. That will also help me out as I figure out this Twitch and YouTube world. And again, because I am just starting off, comments, questions, and shoutouts are very much appreciated in the comments. I think that's all I had for today, and I will see you later.